Hello everyone, my name is Athira and welcome to this channel. Today, we're going to discuss about how to overcome the grief of losing a job. Layoffs and people losing their jobs have become a very normal thing in the Bay Area. A lot of people in the tech industry are losing their jobs. It started in almost October, November last year, and it's still continuing. This is a time of uncertainty and it is very uncomfortable. Losing a job is always difficult. And that is why the pain of losing a job is often compared to the pain that you experience when you lose somebody that you love. So today we're going to explore how to basically navigate this stages of grief when you lose a job and how to make sure that we can speed up the process of grieving and get to a place of normalcy to start whatever you want in your life, be it job hunting or be it career switching or be it whatever you want to do in your life, just how to get back to your normal life as soon as possible in case if you lost your job. So what is grief? The Mayo Clinic describes grief as a strong, sometimes overwhelming emotion for people, regardless of whether their sadness stems from the loss of a loved one or the terminal diagnosis they or someone they love have received. So this is a classic definition of grief, and you can easily compare it with, a loss of a job. Grief is a very natural reaction to the loss, and it can have an overwhelming response. And you might experience grief as shock, anger, disbelief, guilt, shame, or sadness. Sometimes people feel numb and disconnected from the world. I think understanding the psychological and neurobiological aspects and how it is affecting us will definitely give you an opportunity to navigate that phase in a much quicker way. So neurobiologically, if you think about it, our brain has a virtual map. Like if you imagine like one day you're sitting in your house, if you're thinking about your car or your loved one, you know where exactly they are, right? Like you know where your car is parked. Is it in the garage or is it in the roadside? If you think about your loved one, you know where exactly they are. So your brain has a mental map about like how things are structured, how things are positioned and where they are and how they are and everything. So what happens when you lose somebody very quickly or when you lose a job very quickly? That virtual map and the actual map, the reality is not in sync, right? Like, for example, you might have a schedule like, you wake up at 7 a.m., have breakfast, start to work at like 8:30, drive to work, attend like a ton of meetings, have lunch with your colleagues, then, do some more work and then come back and have lunch with your family. This might be your daily schedule, right? When you lose the job, what happens is this schedule has changed all of a sudden. Your typical day does not look like this. You don't have a job. You don't have a place to go. But your brain is conditioned to believe, oh, this is how a day should be. A weekday should be like this. And now you're like not going to work. And there is like a mismatch between the virtual map of the brain and the real life map, right? And this mismatch is what is creating the pain in your mind. And the way to kind of reduce the pain is make sure that the two maps, the virtual map of the brain and the real map, is in sync as soon as possible. How do you do that? So our brain loves structure and it kind of loves the map. You basically have to recreate the map for yourself. One thing that you can do is actually have a different routine. Like think about like when you switch a job, right? Like when you switch a job from company A to company B, you have a completely different schedule at company A and company B has a completely different schedule. In the first few days, you have kind of like a confused state because you used to work like a certain way and this company is expecting me to work in a different way. In the first few days, you still need some time to get in sync with the company B's schedule and company's B's way of working and everything. And then you eventually get into the sync, right? And the first few days is a little confusing. The faster you adapt to the company B schedule, the confusion will get reduced as quickly as possible. It's the same thing. Okay, now you don't have a job. Fine. That's okay. you can create your own structure for the day. So you basically create a structure for yourself and for your brain, and to update the virtual map in your brain. So that can look like, hey, from today onwards, my schedule is going to be, I'm going to wake up at 7 o'clock. I'm going to have breakfast at 8 o'clock or 7:30, whatever you prefer. And then I'm going to maybe meditate for a while, go for a walk, apply for a certain companies or learn something new. And evening, I go to play tennis with my friends, and lunch, I cook dinner for myself and my family, and I sleep. So you kind of create a structure for yourself which is different from how it used to be. So you do it in a repeated basis, every day. And in few days, your brain will get updated to this new virtual map, and your pain will diminish. Now, when it comes to the psychological aspects, a job is pretty much meeting a lot of needs for you, right? For some people, or many people, a job meets the need for safety and security. You have a stable job, stable income coming to your family. For some people, it's comfort. You're very comfortable with the money that you're receiving. You're very comfortable with the work. For some people, it's learning. You're learning something new every day. For some people, it's creativity. For some people, it is the people that you work with. So for everyone, your job was meeting some or the other need. I think it's important for you to identify those needs and meet them in a different way in your current situation. This process of meeting your needs, which was met by your current job or your previous job, in new and creative ways in your current life after losing your job, would help you to alleviate that pain in a much faster way and start a new life in whichever way that you want. And it's going to take some days, some time, but if you can do that, if you can meet all the needs that you are meeting at your current job or your previous job in new creative ways in your current life, it'll help you to kind of go through that grieving process much faster. So yeah, before even explaining that, let me talk about what grief is and what grieving is. Grief is an internal state experienced by the person who just lost something in life. It can be a person or it can be a job. And grieving is a process or the way the person is expressing those emotions to the external world. So grief is a very universal phenomena. Everybody experiences that once they have a loss. But the grieving or the process of grieving can be different for each individual based on how they like to process their emotion, how they're perceiving the loss and everything, etc. So it's important to understand the difference between grief and grieving, because often these are used simultaneously. But the grieving can be different, and I think depending on how you're grieving, it can be a healthy or unhealthy. So today we're going to talk about how to grieve healthy, how to grieve in a very productive way, so that you can get back to your normal life pretty quickly. So the process of healthy grieving looks something like that. I'm going to give you a 5-step process. It's not really 5-step, but I think putting it into 5 steps helps us to understand and process it in a better way. The first step would be just take a pen and paper and list out everything that you loved about your job. It can be hey, I loved the people that I work with. I loved the creative side of the job. I loved coding. I loved the focus time that I got when I was working. I loved the autonomy I had at work. I loved, I loved the recognition I got from my job. I loved my manager, whatever it is. I loved that I learned something new at this job. Anything that you enjoyed at your current job or your previous job, just list them down. Just write down everything that you liked about the job. Second thing is actually to map the whatever thing that you enjoy doing at your job to a personality need. For example, let's talk about personality need for a bit. This was actually an idea proposed by Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins said that every human being has 6 personality needs: certainty, uncertainty, growth, contribution, significance, and emotional connection. So anything that you do on your day-to-day basis on your work is actually meeting one of these needs, right? So let's take an example. I work at this job and I like to, I code I create all these beautiful websites on a day-to-day basis. It actually meets my need for creativity. It meets my need for autonomy, because I was a lead engineer for this website design team. It meets my need for novelty, because I get to work on new things every day. Or it can be anything. It can be like, hey, I have this job and I get the money every month, and that actually is meeting my need for certainty and comfort. So it can be anything like that. So list down, like in the first step, we listed all the things that you enjoyed at your work, right? And for every task, for every activity that you did at your work, try to meet what personality need was it meeting. Like, the website designer lead is an example that I just mentioned, right? So it can be like, if you're a data engineer, data analyst, or someone like that, I loved analyzing data. It met my need for creativity, for curiosity, for autonomy, whatever it is. Like, just like map it with the personality need that you could be, or you would have been meeting in that particular task. And also just keep in mind that a particular task can meet like one set of needs for one person and completely different set of need for another person. Like the same website designer example would be creativity for someone, or it can be autonomy for someone, or it can be contribution for someone. I loved teaching people about like website design in my company. So it can vary for like different people, and even the tasks that you enjoy on the same job can vary for different people. That's why it's a very personal list for everyone. So yeah, just come back to our stages. One, we list out everything that we enjoyed at the current job, and then second thing is like we map that task or that activity to a personality need that we're trying to meet with that task. And the third step would be meet that need in different ways in your current situation. Like, again, the example of the website designer, creativity was a big need that this job was needing for me. Now I don't have it anymore. How can I meet my need for creativity in different ways? Maybe I can join an art class. Maybe I can paint at my home. So somehow I'm channeling my energy to meet the need for creativity from this particular job to something else in life. For some people, it can be people. I really loved working with my colleagues. I miss them so much. Maybe you can meet them outside of work, or maybe you can find new set of friends, or you can just connect with yourself, whatever it is, to meet the need for emotional connection. Sometimes it can be autonomy, right? Autonomy, like I had so much of like autonomy in my current job. I had the power to take decisions about my own work schedule and everything. Okay, you don't have that autonomy in your current work right now, but how can you meet the need for autonomy in your life? Like you have control over your own life, and or maybe you can design your own structure for a day from now onwards, and you have control over that. So in like that, like just try to meet whatever need that your previous job was meeting in your current life, in your current scenario. It's going to take some time to be okay with you meeting like in a different way. Like for example, if all your need for food was met by sugar, and if one day you decided that sugar is not good for health and you decided to discard sugar, you started eating broccoli might be meeting your need for food, but you might not enjoy it in the beginning, right? Take some time for you to get adjusted to eat broccoli instead of cookies. So like that, it might take some time, but it's okay. You just keep on doing it for a few days, a few weeks. You'll be okay with the new situation. So that's like step number 3. Step number 4 is like showing gratitude. Like, you can list out all the good things that happened to you because of this job. Like at this job, what did I learn? What did I gain? How did I grow as an individual? So sometimes it can be hard, or even like this, what did I learn from other people? What did I learn from my CEO? Often a lot of people channel their anger and frustration towards the leadership, which is a very normal thing, a very common thing to do. But instead of like doing that, just think about what did I learn from that company? So having that gratitude, like you can even do a gratitude meditation every day instead of just focusing on the 10 things that I did not like about the whole process or the layoff or the company or the way they communicated. Just focus on things that you liked and be grateful for that. I think the fifth step would be the most difficult one. Just think about what good can happen because of this layoff. Sometimes if you just like lost your job, your initial reaction would be like, I'm not going to get anything from this layoff. This was the only job I had. And you're telling me to find out reasons, which can, to explain that this layoff is a good thing. Sometimes it can be difficult, but it's important for you to understand or think from that perspective also, because loss of somebody or loss of a job is almost like it's almost like a trauma, right? It's a traumatic experience that you're going through, and if you don't really rectify that traumatic or your relationship with that incident, it can create trauma. Like you might overcome this, you might like get into another job, but this experience will always stay as a very bad experience in your life, and it might or might not affect your next job. So it's important for you to kind of appreciate the good things that could have happened or that is happening because of this layoff. It can look like, hey, because of this layoff, I learned a new skill. I learned that, okay, this particular job, I wasn't enjoying it. So maybe like this layoff is actually forcing me to find a job that I love doing. Or it can be like, hey, this layoff is actually telling me, or giving me or basically teaching me that I should probably work on a product that is very critical. This is something which I learned from this project, which is very critical for the company's growth. Or it can look like, hey, this is my growth opportunity. Like because of this layoff, I'm getting to learn something new. Or because of this layoff, I'm trying to let go of control. Like I can only control things that I can control, right? So I'm just learning this experience because of this. Like whatever it is for you, try to list out things that have happened, good things that happen because of the layoff. So I think like if you're not at the stage to like appreciate just getting laid off, you can come back to step 5 at any time, but you can always do step 1 to 4 so that you can actually get into the stage of acceptance. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler, she describes the 5 stages of grief, right? It starts with, I think, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These are the 5 stages of life. I'm just like looking at the list again. I forgot the order. So because even though like this, like studies have shown that like people don't grieve, or the grieving process is not like a linear process where you start with denial and ends with acceptance. Studies have shown it that is not how it is, but at the same time, people do experience all these 5 emotions when they are grieving. And the faster you get into this stage of acceptance, the faster your healing process would also be. So ultimately, we all want to reach that acceptance stage. And when you do these things, like when you attack this grief from like both aspects, right? Like from the psychological aspects, the 5-step process, like just try to meet all the needs that this job was meeting for you by different ways. And also from the neurobiological aspect of like just updating the mental map, right? You can get into the stage of acceptance very fast. And that is our goal. And that's what we're doing with this process. And I hope this video was helpful for everyone. Please post your comments about the contents that you would like to see in this channel. And I will be happy to post more contents like this. Thank you.